Well, I hope South Beach isn't canceled because we have 4 hotels there as well. I'm Rami, founder and CEO of Lifehouse. There's going to be a lot of overlap to the Sonder presentation, so I'll try to focus on the differentiators. We are different in many ways as well. The lights are brighter than I expected as well, so bear with me. But as Michael was saying, look, I started my career on the real estate private equity side of the hotel business, Deutsche Bank to Starwood Capital to Sydell. And what I saw throughout those experiences was really kind of the fundamental reason why I started a hotel company. It really was more on the business side than the consumer side. And I think at least what I've experienced is there's a huge brand proliferation happening, and Starwood and Marriott have like 32 brands between the two of them, or now the one of them, and brand itself to us is less of a differentiator. And what I saw owning hotels was that the owners want to own hotels like a bond, and they want the highest NOI and the highest ROI on their capital investment. And brand is certainly one way to do it, and improving the operation of this business is kind of a more complex solution to this. So let me navigate through this thing really quickly here. So Lifehouse at our core is a brand and management company with the mission of making hotels and travel more meaningful and more accessible. It's an ethos you hear a lot in the direct-to-consumer world. The way we do it is we use software to drive down the cost of the operation, again, similar to what you heard with Sonder. And doing that allows us to charge theoretically lower prices to our end users, but at the same time, it drives higher NOI to our hotel owners. Owning a small hotel or owning even a big hotel is quite a painful experience as a real estate owner. And so we're also kind of really focused on making that experience less painful and more profitable. And we'll get into case studies on how we've done that. A little bit more background on myself. So at Starwood Capital, I worked on the acquisition side. I also worked on brand and management side of the SH Group, and really saw even just bringing like basic Excel skills to hotel operations added a lot of value. I used to sit on my CFO's desk and watch them number punch hard codes into Excel document. And our operations team that started as a bellman and then graduated to front desk and housekeeping supervisor, and on it went. And then simultaneously, I saw, and everyone else saw, Uber developed a software that automated the dispatcher. And that's a much more complex thing to automate than a housekeeping supervisor or a front office manager, what have you. So I kind of saw firsthand that not only could basic processes in Excel and Microsoft's Excel skills add value to hotel operations, but software could really change the game. And then finally, on the brand side, personally, I was creative in my core growing up, and saw at Starwood, at Sydell, et cetera, these groups were really good at kind of creating brands and creating stories through property, but it was all outsourced, and we were always using branding agencies, and these were expensive, and it took like 8 months to design a concept for a hotel, and then that would iterate, and it'd take like 3 years to build a hotel, and that's really painful. It's painful from an IRR perspective, but it's also painful to scale. And so we also saw, and I think, again, everyone else saw, and we'll get into the data, but consumers want more authentic experiences that's manifested through kind of where the money is being spent. So we kind of came to this realization that lifestyle brands are somewhat the antithesis of traditional hotel brands. And we'll get into it, but the core behind what our brand is responsive to each locale, and it's somewhat the antithesis of creating a scalable brand. So we've seen this all in the data, but obviously Millennials are spending more on experiences than physical goods, and so how do we kind of create an authentic experience that caters to that? To us, what that really means is being locally rooted while still having a consistent hospitality experience. On the real estate problem, again, we saw that it was really painful and minimally profitable to own a small hotel. Today, we're focused on hotels that are less than 120 rooms, but eventually will grow and expand well beyond that. For us, if you automate a cost in a small hotel, let's say the finance department, you can quickly drive NOI materially up. So if you automate $150,000 of finance costs on a $500,000 NOI, it's like 30% increase in NOI without lifting a finger. So what we decided, or what that manifested in creating a branded management company that was really focused on delivering what consumers wanted, effectively a boutique hotel at a lower price, and making it easier to own a hotel. And again, I'll get into all of this in a minute. So today, we've got about $300 million of real estate under management. We've raised about $30 million of venture capital. It's lower than Sonder, for sure. But I think what's interesting about it is it really looks like an enterprise software business. And again, I'll get into that in a minute as well. We've got 57 corporate employees. It's easier to get direct bookings as a hotel than as a apartment rental business, and that's related to Google, and I'll get into that. So we're doing 63% of our bookings direct on our website. We have 2 products today. We're a B2B management company, and we've got a brand called Lifehouse. We'll launch more brands later this year and in the future, but they'll be at different price points. We've built 7 proprietary software products in our first year, and so far every single one of our hotel owners has done at least one other hotel with us, so customer satisfaction is high. I think it's important to talk about why now and why the big brands haven't really disrupted this space. I think 1, obviously consumer trends that we've talked about, but 2, operating a hotel is more and more reliant on tech than before. Historically, I think the evolution of the hotel software space has really started with the property management system and Opera, and then eventually it was like, okay, there's OTAs, let's connect to a central reservation system, let's layer on a channel manager and door lock system and Wi-Fi, and so you have this spaghetti nightmare of hotel software architecture that really prohibits innovation. And then Opera was a big component of that. So you basically have to innovate. You have to create a software product, integrate into somebody that integrates into Opera, or try to integrate directly into Opera. And it creates this really chaotic problem. So what we saw was the barriers to entry in this space were really, really high. I think you see every hotel, or at least boutique hotel management company, started from real estate private equity backing. And that's a problem because it's hard to scale a business like that. It's also hard to invest aggressively into tech up front. So the way we thought about it, and I'll get into it, is the business really looks like enterprise Saas. And I know that's not the sexiest thing to say at a hotel conference, but what's interesting about that is if it looks at its core like a enterprise SaaS business, capital can be raised from that industry. So why we kind of have been articulated as a Silicon Valley-backed hotel company is we raised Silicon Valley backing to seed our business and have really structured our business to look like enterprise SaaS businesses in that we spend all our money upfront building a software-driven product, and then we spend our subsequent money on innovating on that product and then acquiring contracts. We do sign management agreements exclusively, and we're asset light. And so in that narrative, we're very much structured like an enterprise SaaS business that allows us to be A, valued like one, and B, scale like one. So while, let's use WeWork as an example. So WeWork has to grow its expenses to grow its revenues. Traditional software businesses don't have to. So we can grow our revenues without having to grow our expenses, which is really a scalable business model. And our VCs really like that about us. Our brand. I'll talk a little bit about this, but I think what we saw was, again, to create a scalable lifestyle brand. For one, you have to respond to the environment. That's the locale, that's the cultural context, that's the architectural context. And candidly, I learned a lot from my alma maters on how to do that. The one thing that I think we've done differently there is we've kind of created a really scalable creative process as opposed to a really scalable creative physical product. So we go into every product or every hotel with pretty much a blank slate, and we design start to finish internally. We took a design process down from like 6 months to 6 weeks, and we actually shut down hotels for about 55 to 60 days, start to finish, for the renovation. So we just opened our 4th hotel in Miami Beach, and it was shut down for 57 days for a full gut renovation. And so a big kind of key pillar to what drives that is being responsive. So sometimes we can leave the flooring, sometimes we can leave, bathroom fixtures, and we really drive the cost of renovating a hotel down pretty significantly, which drives ROI, and it's a much more financeable product. Sometimes we don't renovate at all. This was a case study. We took over a hotel in Nantucket. Again, with a 60-room hotel, the bar is set pretty low in terms of what we have to do to make a big difference. But we've driven revenue up 40% year over year. We're doing 82% direct bookings here at like a $500 ADR. And the reason, well, there's many reasons. It's a pretty inefficient market. The prior operator was pretty bad, but I think what's unique about this is just the ability for us to do this in a pretty remote destination with not a lot of effort. If we do renovate, you can see here, I like this image because you can see like we left the plumbing where it was. We didn't have to move walls, and this just makes for a much cleaner renovation. So again, we're really focused on how fast can we turn over these hotels, and we're doing it, like I said, in 60 days. This is our Denver property. So we've built 7 software products, and I've got to wrap up here, but I think what's unique about us is all the software, or primarily all the software that we've been focused on building is back-end. So there's obviously a lot of software or even hardware to be done on the consumer-facing side, but where we've been focused is on the back end. And the biggest thing we've done is automating financial accounting and reporting. I think at the end of the day, our owners want to own hotels like they own a bond. And so for us to be able to automate the reporting, it builds trust amongst our real estate owners, but more importantly, it allows them to get the service that they ask for at a really, really low cost. And for us, it allows us to do as small as a 20-room hotel at basically no variable cost to us. So we can do a 20-room hotel in Birmingham, Alabama, and even if we make $100,000 in fees, it's a pretty much 100% margin to us, so it's interesting for us to do that. And we really don't see much competition in that space. Pricing, I like to talk about this because, I used to sit in revenue meetings in my prior companies, and like, some people are good at revenue management, and the way we like to articulate it is we've automated the best revenue manager. So there are tools now where we can grab real-time data from our competitors and from the internet as to where other people are pricing, other supply and demand factors, apply different weights to the different coefficients, and change prices automatically. So we don't actually have a revenue manager. We have a data scientist who spends probably half his time on this. Across our portfolio, we've built a check-in kiosk. Not that hard to build an iPad app, but it's hard to build that and integrate it into the full architecture. We built a hotel employee app, so our staff can have an app on their iPad or their phone, so when they're turning rooms or when they're checking in guests or wandering around the property, they have access to who's a VIP, who's checking in, workflow management, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously on the booking engine, we built a central reservation system as well. We're very different than Sonder as well in that we are focused on, so unlike Sonder, I think, where they do leases, we sign management agreements on hotels, legal zoned hotels. So we had to figure out how can we operate a hotel better than a management company that's sold on a nightly basis. And Sonder's done a really great job at figuring out how to monetize a residential use building, and I think now expanding into hotels a little bit better. Kind of where we position ourselves is probably below some of my alma maters in that we kind of saw like some of the quality of the product could be reduced whilst and driving a much lower price to our consumers. So we try to think of ourselves as like 10 to 20% lower quality than a boutique hotel and 40 to 50% cheaper in price. I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to breeze through this. But in many ways, we can drive a 2x return on NOI to our hotel owners, and obviously make it a lot easier to own. We're everywhere now, so you may not think of some of these markets as that interesting, but because we can drive such high margins for ourselves, we've basically developed a model where any hotel is accretive for us to look at. Just breeze through this quickly. Oh, I think I'm running out of time here. We also built a social network in our mobile app, so guests can see who else is traveling, interact. So, like the app for this conference, you can kind of see who else is traveling and interact with them as well. And then we've developed a bunk bed that is a little bit more luxurious than anything you've seen, and it really works well for group travel, and we're seeing like an 80% RevPAR premium for this product. And then I'll just skip through some photos. And that's it. I think that's all I've got time for.
Well, thank you. And again, we always love the presenters that are paying attention to the clock. But